Photo Diaries podcast. I'm your host, Grace Costa, a commercial photographer of over 2 decades, a photo-based artist, and a photography mentor. This podcast opens up a secret diary about the world of the photography industry. We'll bring you inspiring interviews with industry professionals, as well as stories and tips to help you propel through your photography journey, whether you're just starting out or a seasoned pro. Thanks for joining me today. Now let's open the latest diary. Hi friends, welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by the Lightroom and Color Correction Masterclass, happening on the 31st of July 2025 over online. It's a live Zoom masterclass, and it's going to take you through Lightroom workflow and the art of color correction, white balance, understanding color casts, and how to use color for storytelling purposes. Find out all the details in the show notes, and I hope to see you in the class. So today's podcast episode, we're going to talk about collaborations, as requested by one of my valuable listeners, Chantel. She wants to know about collaborations with other businesses. So I'm going to share some experiences and tips with you today. First of all, I have done a number of collaborations. The first one was with I exchanged photography service, like my branding photos, for some graphic design service. Now, this was with a friend, but we both first were very open about how much investment it was taking for both of our packages. So my package was worth this much for photography, her package is worth this much for design, and we matched that up accordingly so that the value exchange was equal, and neither of us felt like we were working too much or overtime or whatever, and it was outweighed. That is really important when it comes to a collaboration. You want to make sure things are equal and nobody is resentful for their part of the bargain. A second collaboration I did with another business, people I did not know, was with a local florist. And this collaboration was something I created myself out of starting a personal project that I wanted to create 2 horse portraits for my home wearing fresh foliage and floral headdress. So I approached this floristry team. There were 2 women together in a business. And I offered to pay at first, like in my first approach was a paid collaboration. But then they said that they would love to do it for free. And so we did that. We made that arrangement. There was no contracts involved. It was a verbal agreement. We had some meetings along the way to discuss how we were going to do it, my vision of what I wanted. And my vision, sometimes was a bit elaborate and quite detailed. But with flowers, it all, depends on seasonality. So because of the seasons we were making these pieces in, I didn't always get the flowers that I wanted, didn't always get the designs to be as big as I wanted because of produce and I guess what they were willing to spend on it as well. So there was a little bit of sacrifice when it came to that particular collaboration. But all in all, that collaboration was really fun because I'm working with a team of women. They're working with me. We're going to the photo shoot together. They hadn't been around horses much before, especially one of them. So she found it super exciting. And I remember the first headpiece she'd made. She made it with floristry oasis, like that foam stuff, which was attached to a knob on the top of the bridle. And we put it on this huge horse who was 17 hands high, named Oscar. And we put it on him, and within the first 2 seconds, he's shaking his head and all this foliage is falling out onto the ground. And we were like, oh my God, this is terrible. But luckily, she bought a spare one. So she just jimmied up something and, perfected it again. We put it back on Oscar, and then he was kind of used to it by then. And we got a range of shots. We got particularly one magic shot that I printed up super large for my home. And then in exchange for that, I'd given them an enlargement, which was probably over 1.5 meters, about $500 worth of value. I gave gave them to that as an exchange. As well, they got some other prints of the full collection that we made together. We ended up making 4 pieces. So the initial agreement was 2, but we loved it so much, we decided to do another 2 in different colors and different arrangements. So they got some more prints out of that. That was no problem at all. I supplied all the food and snacks and drinks and everything when we went on shoot days, and they came along with us when we did the photo shoots so that they could be in control of the arrangement, the floral arrangement. So that all worked really, really well, and we built some great friendships along the way with those florists. So that is one way of doing it for personal projects. Now, I sell those pieces online now. I've sold them many times through the Blue Thumb Gallery and made lots of money from it. That doesn't concern them, so that was all well and good. The arrangement was the headpieces in turn for prints, and so that's what they got with that. Now, another collaboration I did was for a personal project as well. This one is a bit different. So when I worked for a corporate company, they put me on a workshop to learn video and editing. So I went on this workshop, and in the workshop, you had to share a story that you wanted to tell that you could make a video from. I wanted to tell the story of my father and his best friend and their relationship to horses. The teacher had to pitch, the idea to the class, and the teacher loved my concept so much that he offered to make my short film for me pro bono. So completely for free. He didn't live in Canberra. Him and his partner lived sort of in the Wollongong area. So they'd have to come down to Canberra to make this happen. I was super stoked because I had imagined this short film being made, but I imagined that would have cost me about 20 grand. Like I just had that figure in my mind, and it was just not going to happen. So when they offered to do it for free, it was such a blessing, and I was super excited. So I outlaid all the expenses for them to travel to Canberra, to have accommodation here with their dog. They came here 2 different weekends to make the film. And then I traveled to Sydney, where their studio was, to do the executive producing, to have the final say on the cut of the film and any changes and any edits that needed to be made. Then together we launched it at Palace Electric Cinema in Canberra. We had a sellout crowd. It was so big, people were even sitting on the staircase in the cinema because it was a local story. And my dad's pretty popular in my hometown as a horseman. So many people came to see it. Even nowadays, like this was in 2019, I think, people still run into me and say, "Oh yeah, I remember your short film, The Narrabundah Boy, that you made. I came and saw that at the cinema." So, it had a lot of impact on our local community, which was so lovely. What didn't go so well with that particular collaboration and what we should have done, we had like a loose kind of contract, but it wasn't really a contract. What happened was we got a lot of PR in the lead up to the film, just sort of naturally, right? I didn't really pitch for it. And a local newspaper called me up and wanted to feature it in the paper and just started interviewing me about the short film. So anyway, I answered all the questions. It went to print. It went to print the day of the launch of the premiere of the film. The company saw the article and they were not happy that they were not mentioned in the article. And of course, this was out of my control. I didn't write the article. I didn't pitch the article. The journalist just wrote what they wrote based on the questions I answered. Anyway, that sort of turned into a bit of a bitter moment for them, contributing to this film and making this film without them being mentioned in the article. But what this taught me was no matter what the collaboration is, each party should be responsible for their own public relations, their own promotion of the event, of the images, of the exhibition, whatever the collaboration is. You need to take responsibility for your own part of it. and your own side of the brand. If you're going to do marketing, you either make an agreement to share the marketing, if you agree to put it online or tag each other, whatever that is, make it a point to communicate what the boundaries are there and what the expectations are when it comes to promotion and marketing, because we hadn't really set that out as what was expected. Whatever happened just happened, and we just rolled with it. But when we got some PR happening and it wasn't done the way we expected, people got upset. So that was a very valuable lesson learned. I've heard of other collaborations where people have created contracts for their collaborations, and this is absolutely a good idea. I didn't do that for my collaborations because they were many years ago before I even started implementing contracts into things. And I probably would have done contracts back then, but I'm quite trusty. So it was based, all those 3 collaborations I did were based on verbal contracts, verbal agreements. And I know from other people's stories that even having contracts or verbal agreements doesn't necessarily cover things. There can still be upsets. There can still be people feeling like they got the, raw end of the deal. So you really need to pay attention to that and just do as much as you can to prevent any bitterness, anything that's going to upset the collaboration and ruin your brand reputation, because that's the last thing you want. So 3 steps to a successful collaboration, I would consider number 1 being the value exchange must feel equal by both parties. This should be communicated when you make the arrangement, and you clearly ask the other party, do you feel this is equal? Like, just say it if you don't think it's equal. If you want more, say you want more. Don't hide behind it. Don't be bitter later on when we've, halfway through or we've finished the collaboration and you're annoyed that you didn't get what you want. Say it right here, right now. Let's put it all on paper. Secondly, it's a good idea to have regular check-ins, whether it's meetings, whether it's emails, have everything in writing of what's expected from the collaboration as you go along the process. And third is manage expectations. Manage each other's expectations and communicate regularly with those check-ins. But, asking each other, are you okay with this part of the process? Do you want more from me from this part of it? Blah, blah, blah. So you kind of want to just ensure that everyone's butt is covered when it comes to a collaboration. And also, your collaborations should match your values. So I wouldn't collaborate with anybody whose values doesn't match mine. So if somebody asked me to collaborate on, say, a smoking campaign, and the win for me would be to get pictures for my portfolio, say it was of Brad Pitt or whatever, smoking for a smoking campaign, and I really wanted pictures for my portfolio, but my brand doesn't align with smoking, that's not a value of mine, then I would say no to that. Because why do something that doesn't align with your values? You're just going to become resentful. It's not going to work with your brand. You're not going to want to share it. So it's a bit pointless. But think about things like, is there really anything in it for you? Somebody might come to you for a request for a collaboration. Don't feel like you have to say yes if it's just for something minimal. If somebody came to me for a collaboration and they wanted images for their they wanted me to have images for my portfolio, and I don't necessarily need more images for my portfolio, I would just say no. I'd say thanks for the offer, but it's not for me right now. Because you don't have to say yes, you don't have to feel obliged. Do what the hell you want to do. So I hope that was in some way helpful. If you want to talk about it, you can hit me up in the DMs and we can discuss your collaboration idea, or if you have any questions around that. But in the meantime, friends, I want to remind you that the Lightroom and Color Correction Masterclass is coming up on the 31st of July. We've already run it one time this year, and the ladies loved it. This is for women and men though. They loved the class so much they were blown away by the types of things that I taught them. So I want you to join this class. It's a paid masterclass, approximately 1 hour online. Go to the link in the show notes, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye. That's it for today's episode. If you found it valuable, I invite you to leave a review so more people can find this podcast, or simply subscribe to be notified when each new episode drops. Until next time, see you later.